Hello, listeners. Welcome to the first ever episode of HR Basement, the podcast that dives deep into the world of hiring, talent spotting, and the occasional oversight. I'm Jake, your digital co-host, and once upon a time, a rejected candidate.
And I'm Rachel, the recruiter who, dare I say, made the mistake of rejecting Jake.
That's one way to put it.
Well, it's not every day you get to sit across from someone you once turned down, only to watch them turn into someone so inspirational.
So, Rachel, let's start at the beginning. What was it about my application or interview that made you think, nope, he's not the one?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't that you lacked talent or potential. It was more about fit. At the time, the company was looking for someone with a very specific skill set. And while you had a lot of great qualities, you've always been about breaking the mold. Looking back, maybe that's what scared me off.
I get it. But don't you think that sometimes recruiters miss out on raw potential? I mean, if everyone's looking for the same fit, aren't we just creating an army of clones?
Yeah, it's a valid point. And in hindsight, yes, I think we might have been too rigid. But making the right choice isn't black and white. It's a spectrum of greys, influenced by numerous unseen factors and biases. On one hand, you have the immediate needs of the company, and on the other, you have this candidate with immense potential but not the exact skills you're looking for. How do we even differentiate between unconventional genius and just plain bizarre?
By taking risks. Look, every genius was once considered bizarre. If we keep playing it safe, we'll miss out on the next big thing, won't we?
Yeah, and that's something I've learned over the years, but back then it was all about ticking boxes, and unfortunately, you didn't tick all of them. I mean, I'm genuinely happy for all your success, but I was always curious, how did that rejection, shape your journey?
Best thing that ever happened to me. Pushed me to go bigger and bolder. It made me question what I'm really passionate about and, my direction, but it also pushed me to prove not just to you or the company, but to myself that I had what it took.
That's so great to hear. But let's flip the script for a moment. Now that you're on the other side of the table, how do you approach the hiring process?
We value potential just as much as skills, if not more. I've been in those shoes. So I always try to look beyond the resume, beyond the skills, and really spend the time to get to know the person. We look for signs of adaptability, a willingness to learn, and a genuine passion for what we do. It's not just about the here and now. It's about the future. Where do you see this person in 5 years or 10 years? Can they grow with the company? Can they bring something new to the table?
And that's the burning question, isn't it? Spotting that hidden potential and then, nurturing it.
Absolutely. Let's set the stage here. In the world of hiring, spotting potential is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's not just about the glittering qualifications or the polished interview skills. It's about seeing the unseen and trusting a gut feeling that often contradicts the data in front of you.
Precisely. And it's critical that you get those decisions right. A bad hire, especially at a critical position, can cost companies anywhere from 30 to 400% of that employee's annual salary. And it's not just monetary loss. We're talking about a potential dip in employee morale, productivity, and even the company's reputation.
Yep, bad hires could be a disaster, It makes absolute business sense to hire right the first time. But I want to focus more on the hidden gems. The candidates whose brilliance isn't on their resumes, but in their adaptability, their curiosity, and their inherent drive.
Just like a secret ingredient in a recipe. But here's where it gets complex though. Companies and recruiters face immense pressure and a ticking clock. And so they resort to what I call template hiring. Checklists, years of experience, degrees from certain institutions, etc. And so they miss out on the college dropout who has an innate business acumen, or the quiet developer with groundbreaking ideas.
Yeah, it's like fishing with a net design only for a certain kind of fish, disregarding the fact that the ocean is teeming with diverse species. This mindset can lead companies to overlook candidates with immense potential just because they don't fit the mold. For instance, take the story of Brian Acton, co-founder of WhatsApp. In 2009, he was turned down by Facebook, only to sell his app to them 5 years later for a staggering $19 billion.
Wow. And yet, it also begs the question, if someone like Acton slipped through, what does it say about the traditional hiring process? Are we really equipped to spot the mavericks and the innovators of the industry?
Look, we first need to refine our lens to spot the unspotted. I'll give you an example. I have never seen any evidence that academic success accurately predicts workplace success. In fact, in a competitive setting such as recruitment, an unconventional rule for spotting talent that nobody else uses is maybe far better because it will allow you to find talent that is undervalued by everyone else. Let me ask you this. When you're sifting through a sea of applicants, what makes you swipe left on a potential game changer?
It's a blend of factors, really. We recruiters have to constantly juggle company expectations, the pressure to fill roles quickly, and the need to minimize risk. Sometimes we get candidates who are jack of all trades, but masters of none. They're like Swiss Army knives, useful in many situations, but not always the expert you need for a specialized role.
But aren't almost all industries crying out for versatility now? Because one of the problems with a predictable hiring process is that ambitious people can easily game the system. You know the ropes, right? They'll get their violin lessons, good grades from an elite institution, and an internship at their uncle's bank. By contrast, if you hire that brilliant poker player, you do know one thing: he's genuinely talented at something, and it's unlikely that his parents have spent a fortune on private poker lessons.
I completely agree. But here's the thing though. Real excellence can come in odd packaging and is usually hidden in plain sight. What I'm saying is many candidates, no matter how great, just don't shine through in a pressured, time-constrained hiring process.
That's true. And sometimes all it takes is just a single yes amidst a sea of rejections to uncover brilliance. So let's talk about solutions. How do we ensure, that we're giving these stories the platform they deserve?
Well, that's where we need to revolutionize our approach. Most interviews today barely give you a snapshot, hardly ever the full picture. But methods such as immersive simulations, gamified assessments, situational judgment tests are so much more effective in capturing modern workplace traits. We've got to fully embrace technology, especially the recent strides in artificial intelligence. And the fact is, once recruiters open up to these methods, there's no shortage of amazing tools out there.
Exactly. Now you're talking my language. A dynamic approach to a dynamic landscape, like using a 3D strategy in a 3D world instead of flat 2D tactics. This reminds me of Laszlo Bock's work at Google. They moved past the fancy degrees, focusing on cognitive ability, leadership, and deep domain knowledge, regardless of where the candidate went to school. The focus shifted to what they called Googliness, which is all about how well someone fits with their culture.
Totally. I heard about that. And talking about new tools, though, I'm curious, what do you think about the application of artificial intelligence in HR? Because one thing's for sure, unlike humans, it won't get fatigued after assessing the 40th application for the day.
I'm a big advocate of AI, but right now, what it lacks is human judgment, the ability to see beyond the cut and dried. So while AI introduces efficiency, we risk losing the human element, don't we?
The question is, how do we balance it? How do we leverage AI without turning the recruitment process into a mechanical, soulless assembly line?
Well, for starters, we don't let AI make the final decision. It should be an assistant, not the decision maker. Like in medicine, doctors use AI for diagnosis, but the treatment plan often requires a human touch, empathy, and experience.
Agreed. Plus, we also need to constantly reevaluate the criteria programmed into these systems. The ideal candidate from 5 years ago might not be the one you need today. The tech industry, for instance, is now more accommodating of dropouts and self-taught geniuses, a far cry from the stringent requirements of the past.
And as we wade through these considerations, it's clear to me that the hiring process isn't just about filling a vacant spot. It's about vision and sometimes taking that leap of faith. The Steve Jobs and Elon Musks of the world didn't emerge from homogeneity. They're products of a system that, perhaps inadvertently, allowed outliers.
Absolutely. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on replacing conventional interviews with simulated assessments that reflect real-world job challenges?
I honestly feel they're a game changer because it's never about what the candidates claim to do on paper. It's about what they can do when the heat is on. Companies like Shopify and Unilever have implemented immersive assessments and reported more successful hires and greater diversity.
They're definitely effective. In fact, companies of all shapes and sizes are now shopping for new apps for sourcing, assessment, training, performance, and employee engagement. But let's shift gears a bit. I have a fun one for you. If you had to hire someone based solely on a dare, what would it be?
A dare. Let me think. I would dare them to design a campaign to sell ice to Eskimos. If they can pull that off, they've got the job.
Perfect. Any epic hiring failures you'd like to confess?
Oh, plenty. I once hired someone because they sent their CV as a comic strip. It was creative, but sadly, their actual design skills didn't match their CV creativity. But hey, that's the risk of thinking outside the box, isn't it?
Speaking of thinking outside the box, let's dare to envision the future. What does hiring look like in, say, 2030?
I see a world where remote work is the norm, with teams spread across cities, countries, even continents, where we hire based on passion projects, life experiences, and yes, maybe even dares, where we value creativity and potential over degrees, and where hiring isn't about scanning resumes, but matching what I call skill clouds, dynamic profiles of people's skills, experiences, and passions that evolve in real time.
Skill clouds, huh? I like that. It definitely speaks to a future where your ability to contribute trumps where you went to school or who you know. And with virtual reality, we could have immersive interviews in exciting environments, allowing candidates to demonstrate their true, authentic selves.
Absolutely. Imagine solving a crisis on a virtual Mars colony as part of your job interview.
I love it. All right, Jake, let's play a game. Rapid fire. I'll throw out a job title and you tell me a unique way to hire for that role. Ready?
Okay, bring it on.
How would you hire a graphic designer?
I'd have them design a cereal box with the CEO as the mascot. If it makes us laugh, they're hired.
Okay, software developer.
How about this? I'll lock them in a real life escape room that can only be exited by coding their way out.
Brilliant. All right, last one. An HR manager.
Let me think. I will make them mediate a staged argument between two politicians from opposing parties if they can keep the peace they're in.
3 out of 3. Well done. As we wrap this episode up, any final words for our listeners?
Just this. In a world that often values conformity, dare to be the square peg in a round hole. Whether you're hiring or looking to be hired, embrace the unconventional. It's where the magic happens.
Beautifully put. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this wild ride. Remember, the future isn't a distant dream. You are the architects of this emerging world. With every candidate you give a chance, every unique hiring strategy you adopt, and every bias you challenge, you're building more than just a team. You're crafting the future's foundation.
So keep listening, keep questioning, and above all, keep embracing the untapped potential around you. The HR basement might be in a digital realm, but its implications are as real as they get.
Goodbye, listeners. And don't forget, the door to this basement is always open.